Hey everyone, and welcome to Weird Future. So today, me and Bob Cheesy here are going to be talking a little bit about our favorite heroes, powered and non-powered. Bob Cheesy, how you doing?
Hi, good. How about you guys? Just you.
Everybody else out there too, how are y'all doing? How's it going? Hope you guys are reading comics because they're fucking fantastic. So today, me and Bob here are going to be talking about our favorite heroes, powered and non-powered, and today we're going to start right now with non-powered. So personally, I'm choosing the question. Who are you choosing, Bob?
The Punisher.
So the question: DC origin, Punisher, Marvel. Personally, the question, I got my first little taste of him. For those of you who don't know, he was in the Justice League show, early 2000s, with artist by Bruce Timm. Fantastic guy.
Absolutely.
And I love the question and everything about him, because his whole thing in the show originally, when I first saw it, was just that he is like a conspiracy theorist. He goes through people's trash. He's real, like every little like reference he says, every little joke he makes is supposed to be lead to like a bigger something that's like really dumb, but I love it. Every little joke he makes. And where did you first get your little taste of the Punisher, our boy Frank?
You know, it's kind of like embedded in me. You know, just growing up as a kid, you know, the Punisher's kind of been there, and he had many iterations, many movies, and made many cameos, and you know, he's just a symbol of Marvel that I grew up with. So, I don't know. I like Punisher in every sense that he's the embodiment of vigilantism and punishment to people.
Definitely. I think that he embodies that very well, even though not everybody agrees with the way he takes care of it.
Right, so, and I'm one to kind of sort of agree. Like, you know, for people who really deserve it, you get that justice boner sometimes when reading his comics, and so, you know,
yeah,
that's why I chose him.
Let's go a little bit into the origins of these characters. So we'll start with Frank, because mostly everybody does know, or for those of you who have been watching Marvel's Daredevil season 2, you guys might have gotten a new backstory for Frank Castle.
Yeah. Where
he was in Afghanistan, and he came back to New York, and his family was killed in a mafia hit, and through that he kind of decided to become a vigilante of the highest caliber, of which to kill anybody who is dumb enough to commit a crime.
Yeah. The Punisher actually first started out in 1975 in The Amazing Spider-Man. I believe it's issue number 129. And he was first hunting down Spider-Man, seeing him as a threat, but then largely has been expanded after that. And basically he has many iterations, kind of like how Iron Man started out, that he first originated in the Vietnam War. That's where he had his military experience, and then he came back. His family got caught in a gang crossfire. They get killed. He dons himself as a Punisher. But now he had many iterations where it's like Cold War, and then it was the Afghanistan conflict, and that's how he came to be.
And here we are, yeah. And here we are with Frank today, still doing what he does best, and shooting people in the fucking head. So,
yep.
So like, just like I'm trying to remember like the first time I really saw the Punisher personally, like in a thing, and I think it was the movies. In all honesty, I forget who directs them. Let me look it up, because I think the original Punisher movie was like the first time I got like a taste of who he was.
I know there was 3 movies of the Punisher.
Yeah, there were 3 different movies.
Yeah. The first one in the 80s, which is like your typical 80s awesome action flick, was okay. And then my personal favorite was the second one with, I forgot his name, Jane something as the Punisher.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Yeah,
one.
I know who you're talking about. It's Jane. It's Thomas Jane. There you go.
Thomas Jane. There you go.
I thought it was Aaron Eckhart. That's totally not who that is. That's
no way.
Someone else entirely. So. And
then, yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie right there. The Thomas Jane one is the one I saw personally as a kid, which I shouldn't have seen at all.
Right.
But it was on TV, and I was young. So, and there was violence. And who, as a kid,
Lots of it.
come on.
Where were your parents?
They were watching it with me.
That's good parenting.
So yeah, like this movie, I had like no idea who the Punisher was, and then you get this whole this backstory was a little different, even though it's still like a mafia hit. It's on the beach in like Cabo or something like that, you know. It's like the time and place is a little different, but it's the same idea, you know. Punisher's family gets killed. He decides what he needs to do is become a vigilante, and then he does what he does best, is kill.
Yep. Now talk a little bit about the question and why you like him.
Yeah. So the question, for those of you who don't know, yet again, I saw him originally in the Justice League show with Bruce Timm, with doing the art, and I loved him in that show. He was just this crazy conspiracy theorist. But to get into his backstory a little bit, and he originally was a investigative journalist in Hub City under the name of Vic Sage, and he found this. He didn't find it, but he meets a doctor who has this plastic kind of serum, or this plastic kind of material that he invents that allows him to rub it over his face and apply like a gas, and it will stick to his face, and it makes his face featureless, so nobody knows who he is. And then he dyes his hair a different color with the spray, and he becomes his alternate persona, the Question.
Whoa.
And like learning about him in the Justice League show, I didn't get enough of him, so I went back and read the comics of like what he was in, and what he was originally written by Steve Ditko, who created him and put him in the first Blue Beetle comic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved him. His costume, he just wears literally like a blue suit with like a kind of like a tan shirt. But his primary features are just gone. He's faceless, and that's kind of what I like about him, is that every hero has a mask. Like Batman has the cowl, you know. Like people like Nightwing wears the like the half domino kind of mask.
Yeah.
But you can still see their face.
Right.
You still get you get the Bruce Wayne chin. You get the Dick Grayson chin. Like pretty much you know who it is.
The Dick Grayson ass.
Dick Grayson. How can you not tell who it is by his ass? I mean, it's Dick Grayson's ass. You know who it is.
Come on.
But with the Question, he wears this like there's like a reason to why he wears a mask. Like it's not just a mask; it actually protects his identity, and it's like the reason he becomes a hero is because it like makes him featureless. It gives him like you don't know who it is, and then there's like little runs later on where like the flag is passed, and we'll get to that later. But for now, I just want to say I love him. He's just so crazy. And at first in the comics, he's brutal. He doesn't have a technique to his fighting. He doesn't have like anything at all, pretty much. He just wants to be a vigilante because he thinks that the city needs it, and that's what he does.
Yeah. And he first started off in a comic line, right?
What do you mean?
Like
no, he got his own comic line.
Yeah. Do you know like when that originated in?
I'm looking. It says that he got his own solo series in 1987, and it was written by Dennis O'Neil. So quite some time after the Punisher, actually, which is kind of funny to think about. Like he started almost a whole 10 years, I think. Let me look at the original. The original was in. He appeared first in 1967, but he didn't get his own series until the 80s. So there's like a 20-year gap of just him, I'm sure, showing up occasionally here and there, but he didn't get his actual comic until the 80s.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, my knowledge of the Question actually originated from the Justice League show. And like,
same here.
And it was, I mean, it's great. The way they depicted him definitely made me interested in him as a character.
Yeah, so like just like moving on, like he like getting to like more recent dates with either of them. So, Frank's been like moved up in terms of timeline because Marvel realizes that Punisher is a good character, and the only way to keep him relevant is to keep his backstory relevant. So they push up his backstory to Afghanistan or Desert Storm. Same thing with the Question. He may have been written in the 60s, but we need like new stories with him, give him a little more of a modern take. So
Yeah.
Like New 52, I think, or it might have been a little pre New 52. He takes on a not an assistant. He takes on a protege, Renee Montoya, who is a cop for Gotham, if I remember correctly. Or that might have been in the recent stuff. Yeah, but she takes the mantle essentially of the question. And actually, that was also a really good run too, because I think what I like about the question is that it's more of a title, even though one man has held it, or I think two men have held it, but mostly Vic Sage.
Yeah.
I just like the idea that the question isn't strictly held down by it being like restricted to Vic Sage or Renee Montoya. I think that like as long as somebody understands the reason that the question needs to be and the reason that like he wears the mask, like then the question will always be around. And we haven't seen anything from him in Rebirth.
No, I have not seen that either. Yeah, so he died in New 52, which is back in 2007.
Yeah, he died quite some time ago. 10 years ago, he died, and that's when Renee Montoya takes over for him because he's trying to teach her or something like that, and then I think he dies of lung cancer or something along those lines. He dies as like not he doesn't go out fighting, which is also another weird thing about him as a hero, that most heroes, you know, we see them go down in a fight of glory or something like that, but he dies in the mountains of lung cancer next to his protege, kind of alone.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting actually reading his backstory right now. His backstory is pretty good, where he was physically abused by the Catholic orphanage, and that's kind of what gives him like his violent tendencies. And apparently he first acted on it when he was in college, and he beat up some drug dealer for giving him drugs.
Yeah, so like early on in his life, he was already kind of doing the question thing without realizing.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I see definitely consistency here between the Question and the Punisher, is that they're both vigilantes in their own right. They're taking upon justice in their own hands, that they felt that nobody else could do otherwise. So I think you and me are onto something here in terms of non-powered people.
Yeah.
And how they go toe-to-toe with people, and they actually challenge others that are way stronger than them and superior to them in every way.
Yeah, we actually see like a lot of different iterations of them as well, like in terms of just like who and like what they are, because with Frank we've gotten like time pushed up Frank, we've gotten like Monster Frank, we've gotten like Doctor Strange Frank,
which is lit.
We've seen a lot of different versions, and we've actually gotten like one or two different versions of the question as well. There's a whole little side comic called the Trinity of Sin, where the Suedo, I don't want to get the name wrong, Suedoderm, I think it's pronounced Suedoderm, yeah, Suedoderm, which is the plastic that he puts on his face in the Trinity of Sin comic. Him and two other characters are like permanently cursed with Earth's greatest sins, and that's why they call it the Trinity of Sin. So the Question's personal burden to bear is that the skin on his face is made permanent. So instead of it just being a faceless feature that he can take on and off, he is permanently faceless, and he doesn't remember who he was. So his life becomes a question, and it's this whole series about like who he is and nobody remembers who he was. So it's like it's this nice little like mystical, magical origin they're giving him to a character who never had it in the first place.
Which is cool in a way, because even though he lost his identity, his memory, and even his face, Question keeps on questioning.
Exactly. And same thing with Punisher. Like, I think even if Punisher, I'm sure there's been times where like Punisher may have not known who or what he was, but he knew, I gotta kill. I gotta put him down.
Gotta punish.
Yeah, so
yeah.
So let's move on from them. Let's move on to our hero, our super powered heroes, our people with actual gimmicks that make them the reason why we read them.
Yes. What's yours?
Mine, personally, a Marvel one, Quasar. A lot of different people have taken that title, but I just like the title of Quasar and who is personally taken it up.
And much like Dr. Fate from DC, Quasar is powered through the gauntlets.
Yeah, actually, which is really funny that you point that out. That it's on kind of like the Green Lanterns as well. Like they're powered by the rings. It's not the person giving the band's power. It's the band's giving the person.
Yeah.
So, and who is yours?
Mine is our good old boy Spidey.
Peter Parker, not Peter Porker. That's a different guy.
Not Peter Porker.
That's a different
not Miles
guy.
Morales. Not Gwen Stacy Spider-Man. Peter Parker.
So, for those of you who don't know, which I doubt, the origin of Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Spoilers. Peter Parker is bit by, guess what? A weasel. And because no.
He's bitten by Wolverine.
He's bitten by Wolverine, and it gives him the powers of many. No, wait. Oh, yes. Okay. So Peter Parker is bitten by a spider, and it gives him the powers to climb up walls and give him strength many levels above a regular human being's. And through this, it gives him this great and mystical power card called the Parker Luck. And I don't know if you guys know what this is, but it is the greatest power
to
ever grace the Marvel Universe.
The greatest and the worst. It's basically it's the law of Peter Parker. If something can go wrong, pretty much will go wrong, and has. And when you think things can't get any worse, it does.
So Peter Parker has had a lot of origins, a lot of different stories telling how his parents' work came about, and how he came to live with his Uncle Ben and his Aunt May. But let's just go with like basic number one. He's bit by the spider, and he lives with his aunt and uncle, and he believes at the beginning that the powers were meant to give him money and fame and fortune. Yeah. And at the end of it, they didn't, and all they brought about were misery and woe because his uncle dies and teaches him the ultimate lesson, which everybody should be able to recite by heart.
More than the national anthem.
Yeah.
Of your respective country.
Of your respective country, exactly. With great power comes great responsibility.
That's deep, bro.
I'm sure the first time that was written down, the guy that wrote that was like, "Oh my god, that's so good. That's so fucking good."
He probably cried at his own desk. Oh my gosh. I'm so good.
So you tell me right now, what is your Peter Parker origin? What do you remember the first time you getting into Spider-Man?
Since I was a fetus in my mother's womb.
You were shooting webs right out the womb.
I was being, kids were being sung "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." I was being sung the Spider-Man theme song. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can.
So, yeah. Mine is pretty much the damn near the same thing. I just grew up on the cartoons, and the thing is, like, Spider-Man has become such like a face for Marvel that there's like, it's so hard to escape him. Like, Spider-Man is around literally every corner nowadays.
He is. You know, and like, you have to appreciate the simplicity of his origin. There's no strings attached. And he's like, he's really human at the end of the day. Like, he's more relatable than a lot of the other heroes. More relatable than Superman and Batman, for example. Like, he's just this college guy trying to pay month's rent, who's just given these powers that nobody asked for. He recognizes his powers, and he does the most he can with them. And that's pretty much it. He's just a good guy. And that's why I come to appreciate my good old Spider-Man.
So, with his origin and shit like that, like, how long ago was he written? Do you have that up? I'm trying to find it right here.
He was the 60s, I believe, by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. Let me look exactly.
He was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko.
Oh, Ditko, yes.
So, the origin of the question, also the origin of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and, like, the thing is, he's written 2 years before Spidey, or no, Spidey was written 2 years before the question, And he yet again 60s, like mid 60s, what a weird time, or like what a lot of characters were being introduced. They're like a lot of not basic characters, but like at the time nobody had a better idea of what to like nobody had a good idea of what a power should be, so they just went with they just stretched like their minds as far as they could, because today we got movies, we got a premise to give those ideas, but in the 60s you don't got all that. You got kind of books and fear of nuclear holocaust and things like that give people the idea to write characters.
Right, so that's how actually Superman came about. He was basically a force of inspiration during World War II. He was like a real morale booster kind of guy. He was being written as America's response to communism.
Exactly. So when
fascism,
like Peter being written the way it was, like just think of the name, like Spider-Man. Like you could do that with almost anything, but this one stuck. This is the one that everybody was like, yes, this is my boy right here.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the simplicity, the relatability of his writing. He's just this dude thrown with his powers, didn't really ask for them.
And here we are, how many years later? So 1962, 72, 82, 92, 2012, and 5. So like 52 years almost since the beginning of Spider-Man, and he's been a part of every team. He's been leading his own team. At this point, he's like 30 years old or 40 in the comics. He has his own company. Like Peter Parker has grown since 1962 is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and he's been through the thick and thin of writers, quite frankly. Like, he's seen bad writers and really good writers.
And originally... our boy Dan.
Who is he? For example, we have One More Day, which is apparently largely hated.
A running series between Peter and Mary Jane and their relationship, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that living incarnate sin that is the comic book series that Peter Parker got cucked by Norman Osborn.
Yeah, he did. Okay,
it was not Original Sin. I forgot what it was called. Damn it! You know what? I don't want to know. It doesn't matter.
Look,
my point being is
Peter Parker has had a lot of bad guys in his life, and a lot of bad guys who their only goal is to hate Peter in particular. Like we have like Doc Ock, we've got Norman Osborn. I'm trying to think like just people like Venom, who is now a good guy, but now there's like 30 Venoms out there, just like there's 30 Spider-Men. So it varies nowadays, but originally there was just so many characters who had this bloodlust to kill Peter Parker.
Yeah, and the thing about Peter Parker and Spider-Man in the scheme of comic books is that I like to consider it like the trinity of comic books, where it's like Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man. Like those are the largely most recognized comic book characters ever.
It's true. It really is. Like they have like a lot. They have just, and the thing is, it's because they were written so early on that they have so much already written about them that people can easily find anywhere in their lives to pick up and start reading and still be entertained.
I mean, check this though. What makes Spider-Man unique compared to Batman and Superman is, number one, he's Marvel. All right, like right away he's against the grain. Not just that, but he was actually written 20 plus years after Superman and Batman. So there's a lot of time for those two, for Batman and Superman, to pick up traction, to pick up hype. And here comes Spider-Man, and yet he is the most recognized next to those two today. So something went right for Spider-Man, is what I'm trying to say. There's something that they did right about him.
It's true. They definitely, and I think it's just like it's not Spider-Man who attracts people anymore. I think it's Peter Parker who attracts people. It's not
Spider-Man. Like he's wisecracking and he's a good guy, but like I think yes, the most relatability comes from Peter Parker. That he's just this college guy trying to make ends meet, paying the college rent, has girl problems, doesn't have this high moral thinking. He's very simple. He's your everyday average Joe kind of dude.
And that's the kind of thing that we don't get out of Batman and Superman, where, you know, we do get their daily lives, but we don't get the nuances as well as Peter's, because we see Peter a lot of time out of costume. We see Peter doing his own thing a lot of time out of costume. We see him working. We see him, you know, trying to like maintain a relationship with his family, with his friends, and with his girlfriend. But with Bruce and with Superman, or yeah, no, with Batman and Batman, Bruce Wayne, Superman, Clark Kent, Kal, or whatever, they're dealing with, you know, world-ending problems, and not all the time. Maybe it's just in Gotham, maybe it's just in Metropolis.
Yeah.
But we don't get their daily lives as often. Sure, we see Clark Kent fumble around like a 5-year-old, but that's all we get. We see him stumble through the news office, and then there's a problem he has to deal with. But with Peter, he has to come home to Aunt May every day and like in the original stuff lie to her. He has to sit there and lie to her face about being who he was, and that's family, and that's not something that, like, you know, Superman has to deal with. He's got himself to deal with. He doesn't really have to lie to anyone besides his friends.
And he's constantly worried about her health, you know, because she's a frail old lady.
Yeah, there's just like a lot more.
Yeah,
and there's a lot more for Peter to deal with.
And despite whatever crap he goes through, he is still the Peter Parker. You know, he may have a block of some emotional high points and lows, but damn, he still pulls through no matter what, and he's just a very compelling character.
Yeah, and I really enjoy him. I really do. I think he's really got a lot going for him. So let's keep moving though, because we spent a lot of time on him.
What's your superhero guy or gal?
It's gonna be my boy / girl Quasar, because multiple people have taken up the titles. So for those of you who don't know, Quasar is essentially a title that runs through the Marvel universe for people who carry these things called the quantum bands, and the quantum bands were given down to by one of the, not Celestials, but one of the most powerful forces called Eon, who is literally the being of cosmic awareness, and these bands give the person powers almost like a Green Lantern would, where they can form things out of like pure quantum energy, as they call it.
Yeah. And
things like that. And we've seen this character like have several different people. Phyla-Vell, who is the daughter of Captain Marvel. The original was Wendell Vaughn, who is originally a SHIELD agent, and when he finds the quantum bands, he puts them on, and he is taken in by Eon, who decides he shall be the Quasar, a defender of the universe kind of dealio. Green Lantern almost deal.
Right.
And
dons something that
he dons it, and he decides to exactly. So I just enjoy it. We've seen. Let me look up when exactly he all started, but
I'll tell you actually.
Oh,
I have it. He first appears in Fantastic Four issue number 164 back in November 1975.
75. So
75, yeah.
Yeah, so a year after Frank, right? I think you said Frank was 74, 75. Almost like exactly the same time that Punisher came out. We see Quasar.
I think this is during Marvel's Silver Age, which is one of Marvel's highlights, best ages ever.
Definitely. We see so many interesting characters. This is when cosmic level beings and cosmic level entities and things like that started getting really a lot of traction in Marvel, I think.
Yeah.
So we see characters like Quasar, we see like Thanos, we see Guardians of the Galaxy, characters like that are constantly, you know, not just on Earth anymore. Earth isn't just the main stage. Right. And that's what makes those characters, that's what made those characters interesting, and that's what makes Quasar interesting for me, is that whoever is Quasar is always, usually, not recently, traveling around, trying to defend the universe, trying to be a force of good.
Right. And it's been done by multiple people, like you said. And even I barely found out right now, Richard Rider, the original Nova, he actually had the quantum bands when he was fighting a very bad villain. think
Yeah,
Annihilation it was.
yeah, for a time, yeah, Richard Rider, Nova was a Quasar, Phyla-Vell, daughter in Captain Marvel, Wendell Vaughn. A lot of people have like worn the gloves. There's a new character whose name escapes me. She is the newest bearer of the gauntlets, or the not the gauntlets, the bands.
Yeah, she's currently the Quasar right now, who made an appearance in Captain America's Steve Rogers series written by Nick Spencer. And then right now, as of today, June 4th, 2017, she is in a coma in the Marvel's Secret Empire, where Captain America has officially taken over as a Hydra agent, or Hydra leader, supreme leader.
Yeah, so it's actually really, I'm interested to see where they take that, just because I want to, like, how do you take out the Quasar? How did Captain America do it? But we don't know, and I'm interested to see where that goes. But like, just going to like original characters, like people that have had the bands. I love Phyla-Vell. She's cool. She's this interesting character who wants to like live up to her father's name. Captain Marvel, for those of you who don't know who that is a Kree warrior, if I remember correctly, and he decides to fight on Earth and defend Earth after the Kree kind of betray him.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Looking here, so Phyla-Vell was actually made her appearance back in 2004.
Yeah, she's a very recent character, but
yeah.
I still really enjoy her.
Yes. So she's awesome as Captain Marvel, and even as Quasar. And then she gets killed by Magnus, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, but yeah, the Quasar is a character I enjoy because the the way cosmic things are written in Marvel is a lot better, or not better, but it's a lot more in depth in DC. DC doesn't have a lot of cosmic entities that are as so diverse as Marvel does.
Right.
So when characters like Quasar come along, who are like essentially the Green Lantern Corps in one person, or they're like, you know, they're a space vigilante or a space hero where they visit and see all these new interesting things, you color me interested, I guess is what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Quasar it's just like a personal superpowered favorite of mine. I love the design of the star and the bands. Wendell Vaughn, like the entire series running with Wendell Vaughn was like hilarious and amazing. Just seeing him as a regular dude try to understand what is happening in space is so funny.
Yeah.
And then getting to like characters who have already seen and dealt with it, like Richard Rider and Phyla, who are born and bred in space almost, or not like right. Richard Rider wasn't born there, but like
he adopted it more so than Earth.
He adopted it exactly. Yeah, so I think that's about it, though. I think that like that kind of wraps up my Quasar little speech there. Quasar in question, the double Qs.
The double Qs. Yeah, so there you go. The QQQ.
QQQ, the question, the Quasar, and the cube, right here on
Not
Weird
a coincidence.
Future.
It's gonna be your own cult.
The triple Q cult. No, and the cult is spelled with a Q.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, so Bob Cheesy here with his boys. He's flanked on either side by the Punisher and Spidey.
Yeah.
Both who are, and one thing too, hasn't Spider-Man fought Punisher? Hasn't that been the thing, like one time or another?
That's actually how Punisher was first introduced. Actually, it was not through, hey, here's this guy named Punisher. It was Spider-Man being hunted by the Punisher because the Punisher saw that Spider-Man, he assumed that he was a menace. And that was the thing. There was a whole fight between the two of them, and then eventually Punisher recognized that Spider-Man's a good guy. They allied together. The rest is history.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's about it, though. I think we've kind of covered like who, what, where, how, and why. So I think that's about it. I think unless you want to give another reason why you think the Punisher and Spider-Man are badass.
Oh yeah, at the end of Secret Wars, or actually the beginning, when the world was about to be destroyed, the Punisher's like, what am I going to do with all these bullets? And he barges into the villain's lair and he just starts unloading all the bullets on them, kills them before the world collapses.
He literally does one final hit before, and they were gonna die anyways.
Yeah,
but he was like,
but he's
I'm
like-
gonna do it. It's on me.
Right. So that was an amazing moment of comics that was carried out by the Punisher. So I don't know, just worth mentioning.
Yeah, there's a ton to read on Spider-Man, Punisher, Quasar, and Question. So for those of you out there who haven't found a character you might like, those might be a good place to start. And if you think those are a little too mainstream for you, or a little too edgy, over the edge, just let us know, and we'll keep recommending. We'll keep finding characters out there that might be a little bit your taste if they're not ours.
Yeah.
So mash that motherfucking like button. This has been the
Watch
Cube,
this.
and
Yeah,
watch
please.
this. Yeah. So this has been the Cube,
Bye, Cube.
and this has been Bob Cheesy,
Bye, guys. Thank you for watching.
and this has been Weird Future. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.